While villains are often hated on by the public for behaving selfishly and for wanting to do things like, rule the world, when their existence and that of the planet is at stake, even they can become a hero for the day in an effort to save it. Or at least an anti-hero. Join me as we count down the top 10 times villains had to save the world. Number 10. Joker. During the events of Last Night on Earth, Joker actually teams up with Batman to help him save what is left of the world, which is now pretty much a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Despite being reduced to just a head in a jar, Joker proves to be pretty useful, even kind of becoming Batman's new robotic Robin. Batman ends up taking the Joker's head to a version of the Batcave, if not the Batcave, and gives Joker a Robin mech suit, attaching his head to it, which allows Joker to control the body and help Batman in his fight against the mysterious force known as Omega. No spoilers here though, so you can read Last Night on Earth for more. Number 9. Super Skrull. Not only has Super Skrull Kl'rt now joined the side of good, basically, serving Emperor Doric VIII, aka Emperor Hulkling, aka Teddy Altman, who himself rules the alliance of the Kree and Skrull forces and is a hero, but even before that, he lended a hand to help save the universe. When the Annihilation Wave threatened the existence of all life in the universe, Super Skrull joined the opposing forces and fought against both Annihilus and his wave and the Ultron Phalanx. It just goes to show that when a problem presents itself that is bigger than his own personal vendettas, Kl'rt can put aside his differences and even become a temporary or possibly permanent hero as he fights to protect the world. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it where we talk about when villains sometimes wear the mantle of hero, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. The Suicide Squad. During James Gunn's The Suicide Squad film, our lovable ragtag team of criminal misfits decide to band together, even when their mission is deemed finished by Amanda Waller, to continue the fight to save Corto Maltese and potentially the world from the wrath of Project Starfish, aka Starro the Conqueror. The final team in this film includes Bloodsport, Rick Flag, Harley Quinn, King Shark, Ratcatcher 2, Polka Dot Man, and Peacemaker. They are also joined by ally Milton at the end and the Thinker, who's kind of forced into helping them as they break into Jotunheim. While not all of them make it to that final showdown, all those still standing decide to go against orders and fight to protect the world against Starro. And guess what? They win. But I'm not going to spoil who's left alive, just in case. Just in case you still haven't seen this movie. And if you haven't seen The Suicide Squad, what are you doing with your life? Go watch it, so good. Number 7. Loki. During the Fear Itself event, Loki was the one who freed Thor, which enabled all of Midgard to be saved as they faced his villainous uncle called Borsin, the Serpent. The reason he was locked up was because he disagreed with his father, Odin. There was a prophecy that basically foretold Thor's death at the hands of the Serpent, which was a big part of the reason why Odin forbade Thor from continuing in the fight. However, Thor believed that it was his duty to protect Midgard, and Loki, who was Kid Loki at the time and on a path of redemption himself, decided to help his brother achieve his mission by freeing him. Without Loki's help, Thor would have been unable to confront the Serpent and would have therefore been unable to save the Earth. Thor, however, would die in the fight but would later return to life once more. You know, comics. Number 6. Mephisto. Mephisto actually ended up teaming up with Marvel's heroes in order to help them defeat his own son, Blackheart. Mephisto is all about making deals that usually cause a lot of harm to our heroes and generally a lot of chaos in the world that our heroes then must fight against. And yet this time around, Mephisto decided to join their side, not because he actually cared about saving the world really, but because he more refused to be outdone by his own son and admit defeat to him. The heroes who had fallen in the battle against Blackheart were resurrected and joined by Mephisto himself. However, even with Mephisto wanting to help, he still only did so while also marking the heroes with hell marks, forcibly turning them into his kind of heirs. After all, this is still Mephisto we're talking about here. The heroes succeeded in defeating Blackheart, but would then be indebted to Mephisto thereafter. Which obviously a lot of them, when they realized that, were like, I don't like that very much, but I guess hey, what can you do? Number 5. Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn might be leaning more towards hero more recently in the comics, but it's important to remember that she did start out as a villainous sidekick before becoming a supervillain in her own right, and even being considered the winner of Villain of the Year. That wasn't too long ago. That's just how bad she was. But even when she was regarded as a villain, Harley would still at times do things that could be considered heroic, challenging her own and others' sense of right and wrong when it felt necessary. Harley even helped to save the world at one point from her dear friend and, sometimes girlfriend, Poison Ivy. Ivy had finally had enough and decided to use her powers to take over the world, controlling the minds of citizens using veggies, which were infected by her influence before being ingested by the populace. Harley was called upon by Batman and Catwoman to do something, as they knew she was likely the only person who would be able to influence Ivy herself and hopefully convince her to stop. And guess what? They were right. Harley succeeded, and in doing so saved the world from a loss of free will. Although, to be honest, Poison Ivy ruling the world seems like it wouldn't actually be too bad. Although, you wouldn't get to choose what you wanted to do with your life, so I guess that's pretty bad. I want to live my life. I don't want Ivy to live my life for me, Number 4. Thanos. When the Cancerverse struck out and attempted to corrupt the 616 reality, Thanos was one of the characters who ended up banding together with the heroes to try and put a stop to it. Sometimes willingly, sometimes not so willingly. While not a hero himself, Thanos would very much be against the Cancerverse reality infecting his own, considering that the Cancerverse reality was warped so badly as a result of the decimation of death, and as kind of like a loyal follower of death, or sometimes kind of like a herald of death, acting on death's behalf, Thanos wouldn't like that very much. Thanos is generally all about death, whether she be a lady or, even just a concept. So a world without it, I can imagine, would greatly offend him. Thanos teamed up with Star-Lord and Nova using the Cosmic Cube to prevent the Cancerverse from invading the 616 reality, and ultimately risking themselves in the process as they kind of became trapped in the Cancerverse as a result. Well, they kind of trapped Thanos there first, but don't worry, Thanos got out in the end. Why would you be worried about that? I don't know. Maybe you're a Thanos fan. I'm saying that like Thanos is a good guy. I'm like, don't worry. Thanos made it. He's alive. Thank goodness. Number 3. Black Adam. Black Adam is a villain whose purpose and motivation generally leads to him acting as a hero or an anti-hero at times. He was part of Lex Luthor's anti-crime syndicate in Justice League and stood against that team of villainous heroes from the reality of Earth 3, taking on Ultraman himself in a one-on-one fight. Black Adam has also worked with DC's heroes before, even though he was known initially as a Shazam or Captain Marvel villain in the comics. He's not only been an ally, but even a team member, actually joining the Justice League as a member at times. I think he's also been part of the Justice Society, so yeah, he's one of those guys that's constantly saving the world, but then also endangering the world, depending on the day. Number 2. Dr. Doom. During the events of the 2015 Secret Wars over at Marvel Comics, Dr. Doom ended up taking on the heavy responsibility of saving the world, or at least doing his best to save the world. He ends up accepting, or perhaps rather taking, the power needed in order to save the remnants of all the alternate universes which have basically collided in the incursion, creating a new place also known as Battleworld. Which is a new battle world, but we've heard the name Battle World before, just to be clear. Doom becomes the ruler of this new world and is now referred to as God Emperor Doom, and is worshipped as a god by many citizens whose lives he has managed to save and preserve, although they don't really know everything that happened before. Unfortunately, while Doom managed to save a lot of folks, the world was kind of a patchwork style-like quilt that was a bit of a mess in areas, to be honest. Eventually, the residents of this world realize that they're being somewhat manipulated by Doom, and many of them rise up in revolt, because they don't like that very much. Eventually, Doom battles against Mr. Fantastic, who takes Molecule Man's power for himself. Doom had been using this power prior to create and manage Battleworld, but Mr. Fantastic takes it to rebuild the multiverse properly, and all the universes within it, tweaking things here and there to improve them. Or improve them from, Mr. Fantastic's point of view. But Doom was the one who actually prevented everything from getting full-on blowed up in the incursions to begin with, and so he did his part for sure. I mean, without Doom, the world probably wouldn't even exist anymore, so Just saying. Number 1. Lex Luthor. In Justice League Unlimited, Lex gets a great moment of redemption when he is the one to destroy Darkseid during the series finale episode titled Destroyer. During the battle against Darkseid, Luthor shows up right at the end as Superman is about to have his heart carved out by Darkseid. Lex offers Darkseid the only thing that he really could, the thing Darkseid wants most: the anti-life equation. However, when Darkseid reaches out to take the equation from Lex, Luthor uses his newfound power to make them both disappear, defeating Darkseid and saving both Superman and the world, seemingly at the cost of his own life. What are your favorite stories where villains were actually tasked with saving the world? Do you like the times when villains are called on to save the day, or do you prefer to watch them burn it all down? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.